Howdy, everyone. My name is Jose Bayon. My group members are Aiden Powell and Jaron Curry. Today, we will be discussing our March Madness research proposal. So, let's start with motivation. March Madness is a tournament that is more unpredictable than any other. Underdog teams that play in the tournament have runs way further than they should. These teams are coined as Cinderella teams because of how unlikely it is for them to keep advancing, yet, regardless of the odds, they do. In this tournament, upsets are so common that people have grown to expect them, and even large percentages of bettors in Vegas and whatnot place rather large bets on underdog teams that virtually have no chance of winning. Um, on paper, this should make no sense, but it is so common for underdog teams and you know lower seeded teams to have these Cinderella runs. And for us, our whole project is about finding out what contributes to these Cinderella runs and how it's even possible for teams seeded at 16 to even beat a number one seed. For our background literature, I have read up quite a bit on the hot hand and gambler's fallacy, their applications, not only in the realm of basketball, but baseball and other professional sports. And I've even read papers on it being compared to the lottery and how this ties into predicting lotto numbers. The truth of the matter seems to be that even though the fallacy itself and prior instances don't have a direct impact on current performance of a player or a subject in said study, the fallacy does have an impact on human psychology, and that translates directly to performance. So, what's our question? Um, the hot hand fallacy is an individual condition that an individual believes he or she is hot or cold based on past performance. Now, this performance has absolutely nothing to do with the present and the performance that will be going on in the future. However, this does have to do with human psychology. What we seek to answer is if the hot hand fallacy has a direct correlation with March Madness and Cinderella teams and good teams that end up losing early in the stages of the tournament. For our hypothesis, we believe that lower seeded teams who upset higher seeded teams believe that they are hot per the fallacy, and the higher seeded teams who lose early on and shouldn't have do so because they believe they are cold or they believe they are having a cold streak and should in turn work to get hot, but don't specifically believe that they are hot at that moment. Our experimental design is as follows. We will send a team of researchers to the 2022 March Madness tournament to speak with coaches, players, and team staff at 3 different times. These times are number 1, pregame, number 2, halftime, and number 3, midway through the second half. Our research team will ask questions on how the team is feeling, and each specific person, whether it's a coach, a staff member, or a player, will be asked if they believe the team is feeling hot or cold. We will compile coach, player, and staff data to give us clear insight into team sentiment at different times in the game. Then we will take this data and compare it to team performance at various points of the game, including the first half of the game right after we ask them at pregame, halftime, going into halftime, whether the team is up or down. And at the end of the game, we will compare the end result of the game to team sentiment throughout the game. So when we compile this data, obviously, we will have to turn around and analyze this data and draw conclusions and interpret what it all means. So we will record this data into a spreadsheet called the team sentiment spreadsheet. This will have the different teams, and within the different teams, it will have the coaches, players and staff and their sentiment throughout the various games. Obviously, teams that go further into the tournament will have more data than teams who get eliminated early on. The spreadsheet will show team sentiment, whether they're feeling hot or cold at various times of their games, and for teams that keep going on and advancing at various times of the tournament. We will take this data and then compare it to team performance immediately after the times that we asked them and the response that we got. So we will take the data and compare how the team was feeling pre-game and how they started off a certain game, how the team was feeling at halftime and how they started off the second half, and how the team was feeling halfway through the second half, and what the end result of the game was. So, what do we expect from this study? We expect to see a full confirmation of our hypothesis. Even though the fallacy has no real effect on actual performance, and prior performance in this case, meaning having made a shot, has nothing to do with making your next shot. It does affect player psychology, which feeds straight into performance. What does this mean? This means that when a player makes a shot, psychologically, they are more confident in their next shot, which means improved performance. As far as the tournament overall and teams, we expect to see teams who believe they are hot outperform their expectations, and teams who believe they are cold and need to step it up end up underperforming. This means that we will have somewhat of an explanation for underdogs going far into the tournament if in fact we do confirm that these underdogs feel hot going into certain games, while on the other hand the higher ranked teams that they end up beating feel cold. Here's our works cited page. These are the links to the pictures that were used in this slideshow. I would like to give proper credit to all of them. For the relevant literature that was used in this project, the citations are attached in the literature slide of this project. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me and I'll be glad to answer them.